Chargers fans, the feeling today is simple. We are watching a window open, and this team cannot afford to waste it. Jim Harbaugh is going into year 3 with that January pressure sitting right on his chest, and now a forgotten tight end is starting to look like a real weapon for Justin Herbert. We have the dream of a speedster changing the whole offense, national respect finally landing on a powerful young core, and Trey Lance becoming the insurance plan nobody wants to need. Hit that like button and feel this one with me. What grabs me about this Oronde Gadsden story is that it does not feel loud, but it feels dangerous. Dangerous for defenses. Dangerous for anybody still acting like this Chargers offense is only Justin Herbert surviving on scattered big plays. Because when Brent Sobleski from Bleacher Report calls Gadsden the Chargers' best-kept secret, he is not building some random offseason storyline. He is pointing at a player who already gave this team real rookie production. 49 catches, 664 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 2025 as a 5th-round pick. And let's talk like fans who have watched Herbert carry too much of the burden for too long. This matters. Herbert threw for 3,727 yards last season, the lowest total of his career when he played over 13 games. But that number alone does not tell the full story. Sometimes the thing that changes an offense is not just another famous wide receiver on the outside. Sometimes it is that middle-of-the-field target who feels space, turns at the right moment, and saves a drive when the play starts breaking down. Gadsden has that safety valve feel, but with real bite behind it. At Syracuse, when he was healthy, he already showed he could produce with 2 seasons over 900 yards. This was not some ordinary tight end locked into a tiny role. He was almost too big for defensive backs and too smooth for linebackers. And when you give that kind of player to Herbert, you are not just adding numbers. You are giving your quarterback a trust point. The emotional part is remembering what Herbert already said about him. He called Gadsden a pro, someone who keeps coming back, keeps working, and keeps showing up. He said the team is lucky to have him. That is not empty praise when it comes from the quarterback. That is real respect. Now David Njoku is in the room. Charlie Kolar is here. Johnny Pascuzzi is trying to fight his way onto the map. Yes, the tight end room is more crowded. Yes, every snap will have to be earned. But I do not see that as just a threat. I see it as a greatness test. If Gadsden really is this badly kept secret, he is not going to vanish because competition arrived. He is going to grow. And in a season where Keenan Allen still has not returned and 122 targets are just sitting there in the air, the opportunity is screaming. The Tyreek Hill conversation hits a different part of the fan imagination. This is not some quiet depth chart discussion about reps, development, and practice timing. This is the kind of name that walks into the room and changes the volume. The NFL world may be looking at a possible reunion with the Kansas City Chiefs, putting Hill back with Patrick Mahomes. But I look at that and say, hold on, why should Los Angeles just watch from the outside? The Chargers are trying to escape that frustrating place where you are good enough to reach the playoffs, but still have not broken through the wall. Jim Harbaugh has put this franchise back on a serious track, with 2 straight playoff appearances under this new regime, but the playoff win still has not arrived. And when you have Justin Herbert in his physical prime, a defense trying to stay competitive, and an AFC window sitting there, the question gets uncomfortable. What is the move that makes the rest of the division nervous? Hill, when healthy, still terrifies people. Even after a difficult 2025 season that was cut short by a serious knee injury, his recent memory has not disappeared. 2 years ago, he was chasing the single-season receiving record. From 2022 to 2023, under Mike McDaniel in Miami, he had 238 catches, 3,509 yards, and 20 touchdowns. That is not production. That is a defense feeling fear before the snap. And this is the part that makes me restless. McDaniel knows this player. He knows how to create space for him. He knows how to turn motion into panic. He knows how to use speed to open the entire field, not just to dial up one pretty deep ball for a highlight clip. If you put Hill next to Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and a more flexible tight end group, Herbert does not have to wait for the perfect play to develop. The defense is already leaning the wrong way. Of course there is risk. Hill is in a different stage of his career. The injury matters. The cost, the fit, and the role would all have to make sense. But when a team spends years hearing that it is one piece away from becoming a real Super Bowl contender, you cannot treat every aggressive swing like fantasy. Sometimes the difference between being respected and being feared is one player who makes the opposing defensive coordinator sleep badly on Saturday night. If the Chargers want to break the old script, names like this at least have to be on the table. Because Herbert with that kind of target would not just be more dangerous. It would be the kind of unfair Chargers fans dream about. What Joe Hortiz is building in Los Angeles may not thrill the people who want fireworks every March, but you know what does feel good? Looking at the roster and realizing that underneath all the free agency noise, there is a young core starting to bother the league. That is where the early offseason criticism needs some perspective. Yes, the Chargers had a lot of cap space. Yes, plenty of people wanted them to chase bigger offensive line names more aggressively. Yes, part of the fan base had every right to feel frustrated. But Hortiz's vision never looked like building a headline team. It looks like building a team that can survive injuries, develop from within, and avoid tearing the plan down every 2 years. And when Christopher Knox from Bleacher Report ranks the Chargers as having the 6th best young core in the NFL, that is not a tiny compliment. That is recognition that Los Angeles is not only trying to win right now, it is trying to build something strong enough to still stand when the schedule gets heavy. The line that matters most in that evaluation is simple. The Chargers have done an excellent job of identifying, drafting, and developing talent. That hits hard because that is exactly what this fan base needed to see after years where potential and frustration kept walking together. The team opened last season as the 7th youngest roster in the NFL, dealt with multiple offensive line injuries, and still reached the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. That does not happen by accident. Akeem Mesidor and Jake Slaughter are examples of that mindset. Maybe this is not the flashiest draft class in the world, but it speaks to real needs. Mesidor can become an important rotational piece. Slaughter can fight directly for a role on the line. And when you place those names next to Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, R.J. Mickens, Brennan Thompson, and Omarion Hampton, you start to see a spine forming. Not perfect, not finished, but alive. And now, here is the part I love as a Chargers defender. Inside the AFC West, this comparison gets beautiful. Kansas City still has Mahomes, of course, but their young roster does not scare you the same way. And Knox had them all the way down at 26th. Denver has Bo Nix and some interesting pieces, but they also had one of the oldest rosters in the league. Las Vegas has Fernando Mendoza, Brock Bowers, and Ashton Jeanty, but there are still major holes, especially on a defense that was reshaped in free agency. So I'm asking the fan base, would you rather have the quick offseason shine, or a young foundation that can turn the Chargers into a constant threat for years? Because to me, this is Hortiz's quiet revenge. While some people keep demanding speed, Los Angeles is stacking talent. And if this core wins in January, the conversation changes from promise to serious AFC problem. The Trey Lance news carries a strange kind of tension because nobody in Los Angeles wants the backup quarterback to become the main character by necessity. Let's be honest. The dream for Chargers fans is seeing Lance on the field late in the regular season, maybe in Week 18 with the Chargers already protecting playoff position, while Justin Herbert rests after doing the hard work early. That is the beautiful version. The version nobody wants to face is anything involving Herbert being off the field because of injury. But that is exactly why the backup matters. Not as a glamorous headline, not as a threat to the starter, not as some forced radio argument. He matters because an NFL season is long, physical, and unforgiving. And Lance, now 26 years old, is positioned as Herbert's backup after winning the battle against Taylor Heineke in the 2025 preseason. He enters 2026 with the same expectation. Be ready, wait, learn, and if he is called, do not sink the ship. His story still carries weight. 3rd overall pick in the 2021 draft by the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan's massive project. An athlete with physical tools that made a lot of people imagine a ridiculous ceiling. But raw talent without enough reps becomes a race against time. Lance had limited college experience, just 1 year as a starter at North Dakota State, and he entered the NFL very young. Then came injuries, interruptions, a lack of rhythm, and eventually Brock Purdy took the job in San Francisco. With the Chargers, the mission is different. He does not need to be the savior. He needs to be dependable. In 2025, he played 4 games, started 1, threw for 226 yards, had no touchdown passes, 1 interception, a 47.4% completion rate, and added 85 rushing yards. Those are not parade numbers. They are also not numbers that mean you give up. They are the numbers of a quarterback still living between an old promise and a current role. And maybe that is the most human part of this whole story. Lance is in a place where he can breathe. Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel can work on his tools, reads, rhythm, and confidence without turning every throw into a final verdict. His 1-year deal, worth $2.5 million according to SpotTrack, shows Los Angeles made a controlled investment. It is not luxury, it is protection. I want to hear from the community. Do you trust Trey Lance as the Chargers QB2, or would you still like to see more competition for that spot? Because to me, the best backup is the one we almost forget about all season, but who is ready when chaos knocks on the door? At the end of the day, that is why this Chargers news cycle feels bigger than 4 separate stories. Gadsden could become trust in the middle of the field. Hill is the kind of possibility that makes your imagination start running before the defense can even breathe. Hortiz is building a young core that is already earning national respect. And Trey Lance is a reminder that even the emergency plan has to be taken seriously. Los Angeles is not living off empty promises. It is stacking pads. Now it is on Harbaugh, Herbert, and this roster to turn pads into wins when January arrives. If you believe this team is closer to breaking out than a lot of people want to admit, subscribe to the channel and stay with me.